to see okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just a little bit. Okay.
Spider legs.
Does that help?
A little bit. All right, so what I want to do this morning, I'm totally on the spot, wasn't prepared for this, but we're going to get through it. How many of you guys listen to business podcasts? Awesome. Okay, so we want to make this interactive because I really am looking for feedback. We were going to present Beer and Business Podcast at some point at 1 Million Cups. Just didn't know it was going to be today. But one of the things I want to start with is open dialogue. What do you guys like and what do you dislike about the business podcast that you listen to? So, let me hear it.
Too long.
Advertising. You don't like advertising or you do like it?
Dislike.
Okay, don't like it. Yes.
I support the too long, and I don't mind the advertising if it's that quick, like 30-second one. They go, oh, it's brought by, and then there's a 15, 20-second, and then they move on.
Agree.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was listening to some sales podcasts yesterday, and exactly that. It was like the first 5 minutes, and it was all about all the ways to get his product and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, fast forward, let's get to the content here, you know?
Yep.
So it's good to put it in there little things, but just drive them to your website that has that stuff and not spend a third of your presentation.
Okay, what else? Any other feedback? Yes.
Usually the ones that I listen to on a positive note is that they typically have people that they're interviewing, and usually they're good topics that are related to whatever their series is or their.
Yeah, so there's great content you can learn from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't tune into them and listen to them if they sucked, but there's a lot of things that we don't like about them. What else?
Annoying host.
What'd you say?
Annoying host.
Annoying host? Uh-oh. Well, I think we're done here, guys.
He said host, not co-host.
Thank you.
I like to hear inflection in their voices. If it sounds like they're reading off of a script, my mind strays. Like whoever you're interviewing and the host, the co-host, whoever's on, there has to be, and I don't know if it's the right word, but there has to be good banter back and forth. The laughing, all of that kind of stuff, it helps me stay into it. If it's just very scripted, very rehearsed, I tune out, and then I switch to music.
Same.
Yes.
And there are two different kinds of businesses podcasts that I like. One is when they give me something that I can maybe apply to my own business, and they'll say, well, here are some actionable steps and blah, blah, blah. And then the other ones that I like are the ones where they're giving background, or I'm learning about something like trade wars between two companies or something interesting. But the part that I don't like is when they spend too long building up the credibility of the speaker.
Yes.
They can do a quick, here's why you should listen to what I say, but I don't need their whole, CV.
Right. That information should be on their site or in a blurb at the top of the podcast page.
Yeah. And I think both of those, either informational or applicable, would be good. You just have to do one or the other.
Which would also cut down on time.
Yeah.
How long is too long of a podcast for you to listen to? An hour?
So I don't, I'm more the 30 to 40 minutes is about my
Now let me ask you,
attention span.
is it because you want to get it done in one block? Do you have that much time to drive somewhere? So
That's
you're
usually
I want to
it.
recap.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know when you turn the car off and you come back that it'll actually pick up right where you left
But
off.
your
Yeah,
thoughts
my
don't,
attention is
your
Yes.
thoughts don't necessarily take that.
I have a finite amount of time, and I think 30 to 40 minutes should be able to get your point across.
So you're not a Joe Rogan listener at all?
No.
Oh, what? No.
The secret to Joe Rogan is just scroll through the first 8 minutes because that's when he does all his commercials.
So let me ask you guys a question about time and form, because this is really critical to us, and this is something that we've spent a lot of time talking about and I've done a ton of research on. So some of you say that there's a period of time that's too long for a podcast. So of all of you that think that, how many of you read books? Show of hands. Okay. How long of a book is too long?
don't have a book,
Yeah.
but there's.
So why podcasts would you treat it differently?
Cause the
Attention
way,
span.
yeah, the information, the way the information comes in when you read is totally different when just listening to someone.
Do you read
You're
fiction
reading
or
at your own
nonfiction?
pace.
I read nonfiction, for the most part.
Does anybody read business books
Yeah.
at all?
I do read business
So
books too.
that's the same type of content that you're getting on a
Yeah,
podcast, right?
But you're reading at your own
completely
pace.
different environment too.
Yeah.
I'm not reading, I'm not listening to a podcast in bed, right?
Or when I'm driving.
I think it's like a collection of short stories versus a novel.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to, I mean, realistically, you wouldn't be able to sit down and read a book in one sitting. There's not gonna ever be that expectation. Where I can go, this is a subject I wanna learn about. I've got 30 minutes while I'm making dinner or in the car or running or something like that I can knock it out.
I also think it has to do with content.
Yes.
You know, because if the content is powerful, if it's good, if it's inspiring, I will tend to listen longer. But if it gets to the point where I'm not really getting anything out of it anymore, my mind is straying, then I'm pretty done with it.
So I want to share some philosophies about our podcast, and then get your all's reaction to it. So first of all, I kind of want to step back. For those of you that have not listened to our podcast, Beer and Business is a podcast that we design for entrepreneurs and business owners, whether it's a side hustle or full-time business. We're here to support entrepreneurs, which is a real close alignment to 1 Million Cups. And we have poured our heart and soul into this thing to make it a really, really good podcast. What I hear you guys saying, a lot of the things that led me to start it. So first and foremost, I was a huge consumer, still am, huge consumer of business podcasts. Love them. It's free information. You know, when you read business books, how many of you get free business books sent to you by Amazon? Nobody. You got to buy them. But podcasts, all that information's out there for free. And what I found when I went out and listened to podcasts is, like a lot of you said, I would learn stuff. I'd get these great nuggets of information, things that I would, you know, traditionally read in a book. But there was a lot of problems. So you guys talked about ads. Ads drive me crazy if they don't fit. You know, when you're listening to a podcast like Joe Rogan, the first 8 minutes is ads, skip all the way through it. Or if I'm listening to a podcast and it's a business podcast and all of a sudden they, you know, break in and start hawking mattresses, like, you know, hey, you know, buy some mattresses, here's our discount code. They lose credibility with me, right? The biggest one is they bored the hell out of me. So I'd listen to podcasts and it's like there's great information, but it's just like watching paint dry. And I drone off and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even make it to the end. Which brings me to format and time, because we've spent a lot of our own time debating this and researching it. So we believe, and this is what I want to get your feedback on, that time is irrelevant when it comes to podcasts, just like books. So I will tell you, business books, I finish about 10% of them that I start. You know why? Because they bore the hell out of me. They're terrible. Some of them are really good, and I flip the pages and I finish the book in 2 days. Some of them, you can tell their editors got to it and said, well, this isn't long enough. Let's add, 200 pages worth of crap. And you really kind of get the gist of the book in the first 50 pages, and you're like, I'm done. I can't read any more of this. So whether or not I come back, whether or not I finish that content is directly proportional to the quality of the book. And I found the same thing in podcasts. So when it comes to podcasts, there are some podcasts that I'll listen to a long episode and like I'm listening in the car and I get to where I'm going and it shuts off. I can't wait to get back to it because I want to finish it. It's like, man, this is really good. I cannot wait to finish it. I'm never thinking, well, this should have been over 5 minutes ago because I don't like podcasts more than 20 minutes. That never crossed my mind. What I was thinking is, this is amazing. I can't wait to pick it up and finish it. And so that's the way that we've handled our podcast. We have never said that we can't go over a certain time limit. What we focused on is quality of content. So regardless of how long, like if you look at our episodes, 41 minutes, an hour and 8 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 45 minutes. we never hold ourselves to a time. What we're looking for is, are we delivering the right content and giving you everything that you'd want to know about that topic before we cut it off? You know, because think about this, if you're listening to something that was really great, and all of a sudden 30 minutes is up and boom, the episode's over, you're like, but I wanted to know more. That's how we thought about this, and you're raising your hand.
Well, I think one thing that you're forgetting, the difference between books and podcasts, which I finish 90% of the books that I start. Freaking Virginia Woolf was the worst. Cannot finish a book of hers. But they have chapters. And so I can say, okay, I've got a little bit of time. Now I'm starting to feel tired, or I need to go back to work or something like that. And I can, there's a termination point where I can go, okay, this is the end of an idea, and then I can start at the next chapter. You could have the best podcast in the world. If it's an hour and 41 minutes, I will never start that. However, if you had a three-parter for the same day, and you said, you know, this is episode 47A, you know, this is what this subject is, episode 47B, I would probably listen to all 3 or 4 of them, but I'm never going to start one that's an hour 40 because there's no termination point.
Yes.
Does it cost you any more, to do what she said, to like break it up into bits, or the best parts of the episode, or that kind of stuff?
It wouldn't flow.
Yeah.
Because we have guests on the show.
Right.
So then if we were to say, well, we're gonna break it up, and the way it works when you listen, how many people have listened to Beer and Business? You've listened to it. You've listened to the flow, you've listened to the content. And I understand the fact of having to put it down and pick it back up again, and you don't want to do that. So when we're engaged with that guest.
Yeah, I think what she's saying though is just carving it up afterwards.
How do you, but it's a matter of figuring out where you would do that. And again, it'd be like, okay, we gotta cut this off, and now it could be that point where it's like, you just left you on a cliffhanger, you didn't finish.
No, but you make sure there isn't a cliffhanger. That's what I'm saying is, by you carving it up.
No, I like that.
You go through and you say, hey, we're gonna, just so you know, we're gonna, you know, you can go through and say, like, if you wanna cover 4 different topics that we're talking about, we're gonna end up kind of carving this into 4 different pieces. You know, kind of the same as when you're looking at commercial breaks, you know, you kind of figure out like a point where there's like it's not a cliffhanger. Cause for me at least, you know, I know if I'm driving somewhere that's 25 minutes, I'm going through my podcast, what's something interesting that's about 25 minutes? And that's what I'm listening to.
It'd be an interesting A/B test.
Yeah.
Just take one of your long ones.
Well, depending on if you do, I think lip sync does the ability to, you know, insert certain segments. So like even if you had like a sponsor, say you were doing a launch and go sponsorship, so a 10-second, and this is our sponsor, and then you go back in and you in the show notes, and people can fast forward or pick the second. They can just go straight to the second segment, because in your show notes you've got, this is what we cover in this segment, this is what we cover in this other segment. And some business podcasts I think are good in that they insert a description at the very beginning, that's like a snippet out of it, that the interview guest said this, and this is why it's important, and then they go into the show, and that I think captures the interest of the audience to come back to it. Like you say, I wouldn't compare it to books, I would compare it to Audible books, right? Because people will pick up an Audible, but they'll skip chapters because it's designed to be able to go to the content that they're looking for.
Yeah,
So if you're gonna do an hour plus podcast, you probably need to think about how to structure it or use the tools to be able to divide it up.
Audible books I listen to at 1.25 speed, because it's like, come on, let's go.
Yes.
Do you have any data on how long people listen to you?
Yes.
And do they listen to
Well, this is what's interesting. So this isn't a problem for us, because the vast majority of people that start an episode listen to the entire thing.
Well, and I just wanted to say, I'm unlike the rest of the people here, I listen to most of the podcasts I start. Either I start listening about 5 minutes and I know this isn't for me, or I'll listen to the whole thing. And then I have podcasts that they're an hour and a half and I listen every week. Some of them are like ghost story ones, but I do listen to business ones. And so I do listen to longer ones, but I have a job that I can listen while I do work.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing is the #1 podcast in the world is Joe Rogan. And he is a very long form podcast. His shortest episodes are typically 2 hours. His longer ones are over 4.
Wow.
And I will tell you, there have been some 4-hour episodes that I could not wait to finish. Every chance I got, I was getting right back in there and picking up and listening to it, because it was just really fascinating content. I was all in. And what I find is that there's a lot of, what's funny about podcasts is we were told this in the beginning. I talked to other podcasters, you read kind of the prevailing wisdom, like some people will tell you can't have a podcast that has episodes more than 20 minutes. Some will tell you can't have a podcast that has episodes more than 40 minutes. But we kind of threw that away and thought about, well, geez, our content should be focused on the content, not the time. And our podcast is growing like crazy. And we doubled our size just last month. And so it's like, are we really trying to solve a problem with timing, or should we be focused on content and just delivering what people want to hear?
And I think it's good to have a variable amount of time for each podcast, because you might have a 30-minute one that she sees and is like, okay, I have time for this, I'm going to listen to it. And then other people who have more time or are fine with starting and stopping.
Well,
I mean,
like
you're hitting all the markets.
these in here, these episodes of questionable answers, those are the shorter ones. So that's when we don't have a guest on the show. Or, well, sometimes we do. We have somebody trying to get on the show. But anyway.
We've been called by a lot of celebrities.
But those are questions that the listeners submit. You as the audience submit to us, and we do answer those questions on that episode. So that's a little different. Yes, Cheryl?
I think it still goes back to the point of, I will watch an episode that's 4 or 5 hours long as well. It depends on how it relates to me. So when you're sitting in a room and you're talking about, I'm not gonna watch anything either for 5 minutes if it doesn't build something for me. To me, a podcast also provides me with personal development. It provides me with knowledge of what's happening around.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's timing at all for me. I truly go back to its content and what that content means to me. So everybody in this room could be looking at a totally separate thing that really goes back to them, and they're gonna listen longer. You just do.
Well,
Same thing with a book or an audio.
You said something, Cheryl, that I think is really important, and it's a point that I wanted to make. I gotta enter my password. It is our podcast. I don't expect our subscribers to listen to every episode, because we have defined topics. You may not even care about one of the topics that we do, and that's totally fine. What we want to do is, when we have content that you're interested in, we want to pull you in and give you everything you want on that topic, regardless of how long it takes. And if it feels natural to us, then that's good. And there's been times where we've had interviews where we've had entire sections, like 10 or 15 minutes, that we cut because we just strayed off the beaten path, and we're like, our listeners aren't going to care about that. So we pull it out and we keep the content that's really good. But I want to, so one other thing I want to get you guys feedback on is, you talked about, being bored or having content that wasn't engaging and kind of drifting off. So one of the core principles of this podcast when we started was keeping people entertained while we're educating them. We call it edutainment. See what we did there? See what we did there? Come on, people. There's coffee. There's Bitter Bitch coffee back there. Come on. I want to get your feedback on that concept. Yes.
I think there's one element that we are kind of skirting around, and that is the presenter himself or herself, and how engaging they are in their conversation, or their talk, or their speech pattern that enhances the podcast.
You don't like my voice?
I don't
know. No.
We get a lot of emails about that.
I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm talking in general.
They are.
I mean, that's
There's a few of them.
vital.
There's one that I've tried to listen, there's a few that I've tried to listen to, because I want to see where they started, where they ended, how they've progressed over time, and there's a few of them, like their intro music, and there's snippets there's formatting that you have to pay attention to. And their music matches their voice and their personality, and within about a minute, you're just, I'm gonna smash my car into a tree because that's more exciting than this person's voice, so I get it. And I can't believe some of these people still struggle, still carry on. But I don't think they're willing to listen to their audience and are always listening to feedback from the audience. And
We've
how
changed
many
our
times-
format like 4 or 5 times over the past year, just based on feedback from listeners.
Yeah, and we want to get into it immediately. So we do have one sponsor. You'll hear it at the beginning. Welcome to the podcast. Here we are. Here's today's guest. And we want to thank you. We're drinking this beer from Jailhouse. Now let's get to that, because that's what you want. And everything else is pushed back. There might be one point in the middle somewhere, because our beer glasses are empty, that we talk about Jailhouse one more time, because we're going to have another beer. But everything else is to the end. We want you to get that content as a listener of the guests that we've got on the show.
I think most podcasts that I listen to, like I said, they have at least once or twice that they'll pop in with like a 15-20 second, ad, and that's never bothered me. I think that everybody understands business. Everybody that understands and cares about business knows you need to make money.
Well, we've tried to integrate ours as part of the show. Like, I'm not going to sell, like kitchen utensils. Just doesn't make any sense. So we wanted to bring sponsors in that were adjacent to our message, our brand, and that we could integrate with the show content. But I do want to get back to this question about entertainment and education at the same time. What do you guys think about that concept? Have you ever heard a podcast that does that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And?
Rachel Hollis, Shanti are a couple that I've listened to that are trying to be entertaining, playful, funny.
Does it work?
But also, it holds your attention much better, at least for me. If you're just gonna be straight content and there's no humor interjected or anything fun, I'm gonna lose interest. Even if it is content that I'm really interested in, just sitting there staring at a screen or driving and listening, I'm an interactive kind of person, so having something that I can laugh about or be like, oh yeah, that's totally me, I think you need it.
I agree on that point. There's one podcast that I listen to, is Stacking Benjamins, which is like a personal finance podcast, and it's very goofy, very funny. Example of somewhere where it's really funny, it's really engaging, and you're learning something in the process of it. So I definitely think that format is a great way to go.
They do a good job. Listen, Money.
Yes.
One that I listen to, it's not really a podcast, but the show Car Talk.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about that on NPR, and it's really educational. When people call in with their car issues, and then it's also entertaining because the hosts are really funny. So that's what comes to mind for me. And I think it's a good approach, a good way to keep people engaged.
Click and clack, the Tappet Brothers.
Yep.
There you go.
I've listened to that show for years.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on combining entertainment and education?
Well, it shows live, right? Or
What's that?
Do you record it and then edit it and put it up?
We do. Yep. We've done some live shows in front of live audiences that we've recorded and then posted later, and those have been pretty interesting. We've had some.
What you hear though, usually we finish the episode, Jake goes immediately into it, edits it right then, and within 30 minutes to an hour after we're done recording, it's up there. That's how fast he does it. So we pull very few punches. Or he pulls very few punches. It might be something like one time he said something and I thought he was going a certain way and I gave out this big groan and he was able to edit that out of there. But it was like, oh, that's really not what he meant. Last week there was a little bit something, or a couple weeks ago there was something and it was this little snippet and he was able to just cut it off. We had one episode, we went like an extra 10 minutes, somehow he brushed his hand across the mouse and we stopped recording.
Oops.
And it was about 10 minutes later we figured it out, and so we went back and we just ramped back up, and he just spliced it right in there. He does a heck of a job. We've got some other folks.
I think the key though is the only time we ever remove anything from the podcast is if we feel as though it's really a disservice to our listeners. So part of what we believe, and we've done a lot of research on this, so not only listening to podcasts but also looking at the industry data, we believe that the best podcast content is structured and planned, but sounds like authentic dialogue, like you're in the room with us. So we don't want to do things like try to silence the ums or, take out one little snippet because it didn't sound right because somebody screwed up a word in the setup. Like, unless the setup is completely destroyed, which I've done before. But if we make a mistake, we keep it in there because we want people to feel like this is authentic. And that's one of the things about podcasts is it's very intimate. You have to make the choice every time to not only come listen to a particular podcast, but that one episode. So if you're taking that amount of effort, this is a very intimate relationship with podcast and listener, and we want to respect that.
Most of the editing comes right at the very beginning. When Jake tries to give you the date and the day.
And I get it wrong.
And it takes us about 3 or 4 takes just to get started. It's like, okay, let's start that over. So you don't hear that part. And then we get going. Or there's a marching band in the background.
Yes, that's happened.
So, but yeah, it really is. It's straight through. It keeps you connected. How many people listen to podcasts and you know that they're constantly editing? Like the person's talking and it's like, and now we do that, and you know where it's chopped off and you know where they're coming back and it's like, well, what were they saying there that we missed out on? Why do they keep, do you ever hear that in the podcast, or is that just me?
You might have a better ear for
I was
it.
gonna say,
Now we know what to listen for.
No, sorry, I can tell when people.
That's how you know
on
Darren's a
podcasts.
professional podcaster now.
It's been years. So, but as we move forward with this, we have I know since I've been on the show, and it's been a great thing. You go back, you listen to the old episodes, the quality, including myself, I was a guest on this show, but I would say it's becoming, there's still local folks that we interview, but there's a lot more national people as well. And it doesn't mean that they're better interviewers, it's just the topics that we're looking for and that Jake wants, it's like, or that we want on the show, we want to make sure it's something you want to listen to.
That's what I was just gonna
We don't
ask.
wanna
How do you
lose-
know what content to look for? And then that content, how do you find the right person for the podcast?
What you ask us to, we listen to your feedback, or we have an idea for a topic. There was somebody, we pre-interviewed 2 people yesterday, 2 different people who are gonna be on the podcast. And that's kind of when you flush them out. But the one person, the reason I wanted to interview this person was because of her businesses that she's had. She's a nomad. She's traveled and does remote businesses, and I was like, this would be a great topic. People want to hear it. I listened to her show last week, and she was really honest about something, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's see if this will work, because it is a powerful topic.
Mm-hmm.
And boom. So we went with that instead. We were going in with we've done that with a couple people. Dennis, we kind of had this vision of going one way, and during the pre-interview, it's like, oh wow, this is better. And this is more spot on. Instead of trying to grasp at a straw and deal with a sinking ship of a topic and trying to pull it up, if you see something that you recognize, you go with it.
Whose platform do you enjoy working with the most, and what's driving more listeners to you?
What do you mean by platform?
Apple Podcasts, Spotify?
Oh.
Yeah, well, you're only on Apple, right?
No, we're on all of
Google?
them.
I looked for you on Stitcher and TuneIn and I couldn't find you.
We should be on both. We're in all of them except for the paid platforms like Podbean, where they ambush you with ads. We don't participate in those, but we should be on those. We're on the big ones are Apple, obviously. 75% of all podcasts are still listened to on Apple. We're on Google. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeart. That right there, those 4 platforms, that's 95+% of all podcast consumption on those 4. And then it's everything else. And there are probably 100 different platforms you can listen to podcasts in that everything else. But if you're in those 4, you've covered it all. I don't really like one or the other, and in our analytics, we can't see where the growth is coming from. So what we see is we see what happens with our RSS feed. So we see what the pipe is sending out, but we don't know which platform.
So we do use Libsyn.
Mm-hmm.
Or
We do get some platform-specific analytics with Libsyn, but it's not insightful. It's really high level. But I mean, we like them all. And where our growth is coming from, honestly, has nothing to do with the platform. The growth is coming from word of mouth. So people listen, they talk to their friends about it, they post it on their social, and that's helping us, this groundswell effect. Yeah.
Can you tell where your listeners are? Are they local or are they nationwide? And what does that kind of look like?
We are listened to on every populated continent,
Wow.
including Africa, which we hit Africa about 4 months ago. And so I've lost track of the amount of countries that are now listening to our podcast. So it's pretty cool that it's global. But
Are you doing any translation?
Nope, it's all in English. And I used to do a global job, and there is way more English around the world than people think. I mean, just about everywhere I went to, there was English except for Russia and China. There you're kind of on your own. But in China, if you go to Shanghai or, Hong Kong, you're gonna get plenty of English. But you get inside China, forget it. But yeah, I mean, we're everywhere. But the majority of our listeners are in the U.S. So probably, 75-80% of our listeners are in the U.S. And then we have a concentration in Atlanta because of us touching people and them telling others. So we've got a pretty good concentration of people here. But yeah, it's kind of all over. I mean, some of the emails that I've gotten from people, it's like, how the hell did you find a podcast in Liberia? But
we had a guy from Delhi submit a question. So we did answer it on Questionable Answers.
Shocking, he asked about intellectual property.
Yeah.
In the Wild West of IP.
So the one thing we would like you guys to do, can you pull up the website?
Sure.
I just wanted to get a little feedback, and I know we got like about 4 minutes left here, but this is the website. So I asked Jake, I said, let's see what people think of the flow of the website. But the one thing I would like you to do, contact us. At the bottom of this is a spot. There's a place you can send us an email or send us a question. We do segments called Questionable Answers.
That's just got for the mailing
Oh,
list.
that's for the mailing.
Yeah.
See, that's the one. Oh, it is.
But if they email us, we'll answer their questions. And we can actually leave them sheets of paper today.
Business. Yeah. But usually I would have something printed off and it's questions. But if you have a piece of paper or want one, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer on the show, please submit it.
Or a topic that you'd like.
Yeah.
So the question earlier about where do we get our topics from? So we get our topics from entrepreneurs. I mean, we're around them all the time. I mean, Launch and Go is a great hotbed for entrepreneurs. We know what's top of mind. We get questions from our guests. Like we find out what's on their mind. So we've got a good pulse of what people care about that are entrepreneurs. But we've also had listeners say, hey, can you do a show about X, Y, and Z? And we did it. So we really take a lot of feedback and we take what we hear others talking about as the genesis for our topics.
And there's a spot right here to be on the show. So if you or somebody you know you think would be a good guest, you can click on that. And there's Lee Williams right there.
Yep.
Love it. And you just fill this little bit in and you can submit that. And honestly, if it's somebody else that you don't, it could be a person you don't even know. You can say, hey, listen, I'd like you guys to, it'd be great if you could get in touch with Lee Iacocca. I know, how many people are old enough to remember Lee Iacocca? Okay.
Car guy to the court.
Jack Walsh or somebody like, but no person is too far-fetched to, well, there are a couple people. But if that's an opportunity that might be like, wow, I never thought about that. Who is that person and why? So it doesn't have to be somebody you know, it just might be somebody that you think that you'd like to hear. So that's one way to do it. But
So one of the things about our website and just our brand in general is we don't take ourselves seriously. So that kind of comedic personality that we have on it's a serious podcast, and we talk about serious business, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And it comes across in everything that we do. So even like here on the show, if you can't read this, it says be on the show. Okay, we get it. You want to be featured on the best podcast to grace the interwebs. Who could blame you? We'll make it easy. Simply fill out the form below, and a full-bodied philosopher will contact you shortly. You can come to the studio in Peachtree City, or we can do phone interviews. We'll also help you prepare for the interview so you don't screw it up. Cheers. So that cheeky brand kind of comes through in everything that we do, and curious as to your thoughts on us presenting ourselves in that way.
I think it goes with the idea of drinking beer at the same time. You're not, you shouldn't be taking yourself too serious.
Right. But is it okay to think that somebody
that's
that's
driven by what your style is, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I mean,
on
it's about
brand.
who you are, and
Right.
the question is, you know, I mean, it's not about is being serious wrong or being funny wrong. It's being what attracts people to you.
Would it be surprising for you to first be introduced to a brand like this, and then tune in and listen and realize that comedy and humor picks up, but that it actually has really solid content and learning? Would that be weird?
It's called Beer and Business. I don't really expect that, you know, I'm expecting a little bit of both, because it's beer.
Right.
But then we're talking about business, and looking at the topics and stuff as you go through the list, it gives you an idea of what you can expect, so. I think
So could we play for you an intro to one of our episodes and have you guys give us some feedback?
Sure.
Yeah? It'll come through the TV.
yeah, you have the volume up.
Alrighty. So one of the cool things about our website is you can actually listen to the podcast right from it. Let's see if it works. So this was the last episode we did called How to Create Meaning in Your Work. So let's see if we can hear this, Darren.
Oh, it's got the cross.
Okay, what's it
I think it's a hit play.
You
Yeah,
gotta
hit play.
Well, you know what, guys? That was
Welcome to Beer
There
and
we go.
Business. You've turned into the best podcast on the interwebs. We drop crafty knowledge on you every week about business, but we have fun, keep it real. And yes, we talk about beer. Because it's beer. So sit back, crack open a cold one, because learning is better with barley and hops. And now, introducing our hosts, the full-bodied philosophers. If he was to pat you on the back, you'd list it on your resume. It's Jake Mullins. And his beard never gets cold. It just sits there, staying frosty, waiting for him. Ladies and gentlemen, John Winnie.
Folks, welcome back to Beer and Business. Today is Wednesday, October 30th. This is Jake.
This is John.
And this is Darren.
And today on the show, how to create meaning in your business. We have Scott Mouts on the show today, and I am really excited to talk to him because, you know, guys, about 4 or 5 minutes before Scott walks into the room, his resume starts walking in. He's an award-winning author. He's ran 4 multi-billion, not million, billion with it, billions and billions, $4 billion businesses at Procter & Gamble. He's an Inc. columnist, and he's on faculty at the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University, and he inspires a lot of people through his consulting, coaching, and speaking business. Scott, it's an honor to have you on the show. We're really excited that you're here, so thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. As long as my, resume extras room first and not my ego, I suppose I'm okay.
Yeah, we don't have any room. We have room for huge resumes, but not huge egos, so you'll be fine.
Then I am the man for the job. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate what you guys do. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, before we get down to business, boys, what do we always do on this show?
Drinking a beer.
Yeah, so we're drinking a beer. Scott, since you couldn't be with us, we are in studio drinking a Jailhouse Brewing pale ale called Jacket. And this is a really fine one. It's a little hazy. It's got a really good.
I'd say it's a lot hazy.
Yeah, it's actually a lot hazy.
A lot hazy, and when you finish
translucent, not even. It's just
very opaque.
You can barely see the light coming through the other side, and it's got that citrus smell. So, boys, cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to delicious Jailhouse Brewing, Hampton, Georgia, folks. Go to the brewery.
That's it.
You guys have resisted the pumpkin craze. Not everything you drink in the month of October isn't flavored with pumpkin spice chai latte, blah blah blah.
Would you care to speak about this?
We went
Mr.
through our pumpkin experimentation phase last year, and that's pretty much been ruled out.
Scott, here's what happened. I made Mr. Winnie drink pumpkin beer on one of the shows, and he bitched for literally 6 months. So I really don't want to go through that anymore.
It's got no place in a drink beer.
Yes.
Right on. You're speaking my language. I'm with you.
All right.
So Scott, were you able to drink a beer? You're too busy today to drink with us.
I am at headquarters now keynoting. I'm going to tote one in your honor a little bit later on this afternoon. So count on me to join me later.
All right. Well, you'll be with us in spirit. So today's topic is really exciting for me. I want to share with you guys a quick story. I was working at a company. I'm not going to name names here because I don't want to implicate anybody. I was working for a company, and there was a guy there. He worked in maintenance building facilities, and he cleaned, he, changed the light bulbs, he did light repairs around the office, did all kinds of stuff. And I would tell this guy, he's super, super nice guy. And he was older than me, I'd guess in his, 50s, maybe late 50s. Super nice guy. And I would always make comments to him about his work. Like, man, it looks really nice in here. You did a great job cleaning up. If he would fix something really quickly, I'd comment about how responsive he was. And one day I told him that something looked really good that he had cleaned, and he almost got emotional. And I said, and I kind of looked at him, and he said, in all the years I've worked here, nobody's ever commented on my work. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, how important is it that our office looks good and that things work? And nobody's ever said anything. And honestly, after working there, totally believe it. I don't think anybody ever said anything to this guy.
Sure.
What?
Just take it for granted.
Right. What makes him any less important than the guy running the business? I mean, you're compensated, for the job that you do and the level of responsibility that you have. But I think everybody's kind of equally important. And I was thinking about that because, we talked to Scott kind of, because to come on a beer and business show, it's a big deal. So you got to prep. I mean, there's a lot of pressure.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So we,
a lot of push-ups and
yeah. I mean, you got to be in peak physical condition, mentally acute and sharp and all that. Yeah. So when we were talking to Scott and we narrowed down on this, how to create meaning in your business, this was the first thing I thought of was this guy in this exchange I had with him. And then after that, I always talk to him. But, one of the things that's interesting is a lot of entrepreneurs, when they leave their corporate career behind, and Scott, you did this, I did it. When you leave your corporate career behind to start a business, oftentimes we don't really know what our purpose should be, right? We're not exactly sure what our meaning with our work should be, but we know that our corporate job that we had wasn't that thing. So we may not know what our meaning is and what our purpose is and where we're going with it, but we know what it is not. And I've seen this many, many times. And so, first of all, before we kind of jump into this, I wanted to ask you, do you see that, when you're out speaking, do you see these people that, while they're trying to find meaning, they step away from that corporate job or they step away from a job that they couldn't find it because they knew that wasn't what it was supposed to be?
Oh my gosh, that's why I'm getting hired so much, Jake, to keynote, because we're at a crisis, a dearth of meaning in the workplace today. I know from intense research that 70% of workers in the United States and around the globe can now be coded as disengaged in their work. Amongst that 70%, 20% can be coded as actively disengaged, which means they're causing trouble and blowing up things in the job, kind of like Darren does for you there on your podcast.
Oh, I do like that.
Disengaged. So
All right, so thanks for, yes.
Who was the speaker and how would we find out what his background is before he starts talking? Do we have to go to a separate page on your website or something, or?
So it's in the notes of the show. So when you look for a podcast, anywhere you look for a podcast, you're going to see information about. So Scott Mounts is an award-winning author, retired Procter & Gamble executive that ran 4 multi-billion-dollar businesses, the #1 Inc. columnist, and a professor at the Kelley School of Business, and he inspires others with his consulting and coaching business.
Yeah, you said that at the beginning.
Yeah, but there's also, her question was before I even tune in. So you'll see this anywhere you go to look at a podcast, these show notes will be there. And we do some promotional stuff ahead of time, like if you follow us on social, but the vast majority of people don't even follow us on social.
And we do ask them, you know, at the end, how can people get in touch with you or find out more about you?
The only observation I was gonna make is that there's 3 guys around some beers, and that's fine for a demographic you may be missing out, with it just being kind of a group of guys together.
We're okay with that. One of the things about podcasts that I didn't realize in the beginning, but I've learned more over time after doing it, the more specific your audience, your target audience, the better. So we're looking for people that are entrepreneurs, that are looking for something different in a business podcast. They're not necessarily satisfied with the stuff that they're listening to. They want to be entertained. And when they tune in, they are going to hear something different. And you know what? We're probably not for everybody. Are we for that stuffy executive that doesn't have a sense of humor? No, we're not. So we do that by design, because the people that we are targeting, we want to connect with them on as deep a level as we can, realizing that there are other people that we may not connect with. Yes, I saw a hand somewhere. No?
And we do have people who comment, like this one, the sound quality from Scott is a little different. We tried to Skype with him, and it sounded like he was talking in the bathroom somewhere. And then, so he's like, we called him back, and he moved around, and actually toward the end, it's like, I don't know where he just went, but his sound quality improved, and it's like, wow, I wish he'd been there in the beginning. We Skype people as well if they're away, to pick up better sound quality, but some folks we've got sitting in the studio, and you never know. You can go from this to the episode before to 2 episodes before where we interviewed a 4-time cancer survivor. You can go back to a few episodes previously before that where we were actually sitting around drinking tea because one of our guests brought tea in, and she was originally homeless, or was homeless while she was pregnant.
Yes.
She and her husband were homeless for a while, but her business story and how that affects the listeners. And then you have other topics. Not everything is a tragedy. It's not like but those are some of the ones that are a little more compelling as well. But the information you get from Scott, he has done, there's nothing, there's no tragedy from where he's going to accept the fact that we have lost the meaning in the workplace.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, one of the things that I wanted to get your feedback on was one of our sponsors was integrated right in the front. Jailhouse Brewing is a sponsor of the podcast. How did that feel? Did that feel like an advertisement? Do you feel like that was integrated as a part of the show? Just any comments you guys have on that?
It was definitely an advertisement, but it didn't feel unwelcome. But it was very clear that they were a sponsor, the level of detail you went into on them.
Anything else?
But it was relevant what you said, and the fact that it's beer and business, and you were having a specific type of beer from your sponsor's brewery.
Yeah.
So.
Did it feel like we authentically liked the product?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you go drink it now that you've heard that?
Of course.
Thank you.
By the end of some of the
Please
episodes, you can
support
tell
our
we
sponsor,
really
okay? Drink Jailhouse Beer. Get my plugs over. No.
I don't think there's a better place to put it. It doesn't make sense to if you're opening the beer right in the beginning, that's where it
when you
makes
talk about
sense to talk about it.
Mhm.
And then like you said, if you open a second beer,
Which
talk
they
about
do.
it again.
Listen, it's been known to happen.
It's just when is it going to happen?
But it is definitely not product placement, it's an ad. Like if that's your question as to whether or not there's a question about it, like it's obviously that it's a sponsor, but it feels natural and fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things. I've actually turned down more sponsors than we've, asked to sponsor the show because I didn't feel like we could integrate their product naturally with the show. I didn't want somebody to tune in and just feel like, hey, he's trying to sell me a bunch of crap that I don't care about. So that's really core to what we're doing strategically. Another question I have, now that you've heard the setup on this topic, are you interested to hear more? What are your thoughts on, am I interested in what Scott has to say? Am I not interested?
I would like some more information about Scott.
So you'd want to know more about him as an individual before you make a decision on whether or not you want to hear the rest. Okay?
I'm not sure it was clear. It was obvious that Scott was a well-qualified business person. It wasn't clear why Scott was well-qualified to answer your question.
Okay. Yes.
I liked it because I'm so busy, being busy with business, trying to run a business, customers and all that. The refreshing part, I gotta get in the car, turn everything else out. I wish I could have a beer and just enjoy the conversation.
Don't do that in the car.
Right.
Do it when you get to wherever you're going. Unless you're in the back of an Uber, then whatever.
Entertainment factor and refreshing is not always, it is about business, but I can relax my mind, let somebody else talk about it, and just enjoy the interaction between you two and whoever the guest is.
I kind of like what Melissa had said before about having like a snippet up front, like from later in the show, that kind of gives us an idea, because realistically it was 6.5 minutes in before you started going into the topic. And so if somebody's, gonna give it 5 minutes to see if it's a topic they want to hear, they don't really know. So I liked, she had kind of said like a snippet or like a preview or something like that. So you're like, okay,
Like
now I
those
wanna
articles
hear.
that you read that it's like dun dun dun, like, and then you read the article and you're like, they didn't even talk about that in there.
I would agree with that. I think, honestly, I think I've searched, I think I was searching for beer brewery podcasts, and I found this, and I listened to it, and I heard that introduction, and that doesn't sell me. And I think I've heard that introduction, and I've moved on to the next podcast. But if I would have heard the content of you guys actually talking, I would much more likely have stayed on it. So I agree. I think having the content of it would be good, and I think the introduction actually doesn't pair with the way you guys talk. It felt like almost a commercial at the very beginning.
We're actually just getting ready to redo that.
We're redoing that.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Good.
I like what you said, but the particular voice didn't really resonate with you, to me.
So we're actually getting ready to redo our intro, and we're gonna have a female do the voiceover.
Why is
Thoughts
that?
on that? Because the show is full of testosterone, so we're trying to even it out. And I see a head shaking no.
Yeah, I'm saying no too.
Yeah, I'd say
So no to the female. All right, well, we're gonna fire our voiceover.
If your only reason for having her is
Right.
the fact that she's a woman,
don't.
then don't.
As a woman, I like your show because of its content. It doesn't matter to
Yeah.
me whether you're male or that doesn't.
Actually, that's not the reason. It's kind of a joke that, we're trying to even out the testosterone. We like the female voice, and we think that she can be very playful and match the brand. I don't care what the gender of the voiceover is, as long as it matches the personality, which I don't feel like our current voiceover does. And and I don't think it should be one of us. I think it should be somebody that's not on the show.
Well, the
Yes.
current voiceover was really high energy. It's like, wow, and then.
He is. I think he's dry as a
Yeah,
cracker.
I was sort of like getting
Ugh.
ready to rumble, kind of,
I'm an advertiser.
He's an announcer.
Right.
He's an announcer.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
like a wrestling guy.
Right, right.
So.
Julie, what were you gonna say?
Do you have more men than women listen?
We don't know the gender.
Oh, you don't?
Now that I've been the co-host, no, the women are picking up more.
I couldn't read the sentence snippets for each podcast. Do you say what it's going to be about in there?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because my thought is when I listen to a podcast regularly, I will go through and pick the ones that I want to listen to, the topic I want to listen to. So I would know beforehand what is going to be talked about.
Yep.
So, some people do it that way.
Yep.
I know we ran over, and if you have to get up and leave, please do not hesitate. You're not being rude. We understand it. Final, thanks for coming on. And each episode is, what is it, 47? I think it was 47 was before Vivia was 48, right?
47. That was Mercedes.
Mercedes, okay, 46 I think was Rob Cressy. But we gave a little bit more info, we got into that a little faster.
Yeah.
Finding focus on your passion. So each, yes,
Darren, I wanna go back a minute to the comment about women. If that is the only reason, I agree. However, I do think that you need to realize, well, look at the room, but realize another thing too, that most women do drink beer. Most women enjoy podcasts. It's a way of learning, just like most of us have said.
Sure.
The only thing that I would find probably, or I would say that would be extremely important now is if you've got a female on the program with you, she's gonna have to be somewhere near the two of you. Y'all have got to compliment and not, because, I mean, I know it's out there, but I do think you draw in more if you had both. I'm a huge proponent of inclusion, as you well know.
I mean,
So,
a female co-host or a female doing the
either
intro?
way, whatever y'all think is right. But I do think you bring in maybe more.
Could we convince Mr. Winnie to get a sex change?
How many women guests do you
Depends on
have?
how much we pay him.
Huh?
It's
How many
pretty
women guests do you
split.
have?
Vivian Collins was recent.
Like,
just-
what's your
just
percentage,
one.
25% of your guests are women?
Oh, yeah, no.
I'd
say it's close to
No, more
half.
like 50-50. There is, it's
Yeah.
whoever can provide who can provide that topic as well. Julie.
Honestly, the gender thing has nothing
We don't.
to, we don't care about that. Really, the thing is we want somebody that could really match the energy and the brand of our podcast, which I don't feel like our current intro does. I feel like it's very stuffy, and so we're looking for a change.
Yeah.
Plus, we want to change the verbiage. I don't think the
Well, we
verbiage
need to
matches.
add Darren.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a test run, so we'll see. It might mean I get to stay. But, I mean, it's the same with guests. I mean, we had one guy who walked in, he was high energy, and he sat down in front of the mic, and it was just like, oh. And I went,
What happened?
where'd it go? Where did all that energy just disappear to? It was decent, so.
You guys are getting comments. Says, keep it real, keep it as you guys.
Cool.
Awesome. Where's our media person? Excellent. Well, thank you guys.
So one last thing I'd like to ask, okay? So we have not profited on this podcast. We've not made a dime on it. Everything that we have earned from sponsors has gone back into the show. We're doing this to support entrepreneurs. We're doing this to not only people that are tuning in and listening, which hopefully is going to be all of you guys after today, but also the people that we bring on the show, we're helping their businesses. We're helping them as individuals get more confident to speak, to do something that's way outside of their comfort zone and come on a radio show. We've gotten several responses from people that came on the show and got clients as a result. We just had somebody referred by their therapist who listens to the podcast, ironically enough. So we're doing these things to help other businesses, and we do want to be one of the top business podcasts in the world. That is the long-term goal of this thing. And I believe that we've got the formula to get there. What we need support. We need people listening, which hopefully all of you guys will subscribe and listen. Give us feedback, please. Keep us accountable. You know, we're not married to any of our ideas. We have constantly evolved this thing over time, and we'll continue to do that. And tell people about us. Evangelize this podcast, because it is a way for people to be educated, to learn on the go for free. And it's not easy to do this, guys. There's a lot of people that dip their toe in the water to podcast, and they don't do it to this level. The amount of commitment that we've given to this, both financially, time, blood, sweat, tears, emotional baggage, like, this is not easy, but we're doing it to support entrepreneurs. So please help us support entrepreneurs. I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Any questions?
We are going to be